Hello and welcome to another episode of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks. Today is Sunday, May 4th, and we will be kicking off chapter 13 in Matthew, in the book of Matthew, I guess, in the Gospel of Matthew. Thank you for joining me. If you're a returning audience, I really appreciate your energies. Those who come back to listen, thank you so much. I hope you're getting as much of it as I am. And if you are brand new, just to know this is, as titled, not a traditional reading and is not given from a traditional standpoint. It is a metaphysical perspective, and I am coming as a new person to the New Testament, reading from a background of metaphysics, among other things, but not from a traditional standpoint. I was not raised in a religious home or anything like that, so I won't get into my whole backstory. If you are new and you're interested in that, or if you haven't heard or missed those previous episodes, I have a few sort of disclaimer episodes I put out before I started actually reading from the Bible itself. So if you're interested in those, I'll try to link them in the description or add them in the comments if this is BitChute where you're finding me. If you are interested in sort of my background and what brought me to this reading and more about my own personal stuff, because I talked to that ad nauseum probably for those who are not new. So I really am going to work to hold my tongue and focus on what we're really here for, dedicate our time mindfully to reading on a beautiful sacred Sunday some of such a sacred scriptures here, right? And so just to mention, I am reading this like pocket version, Gideon's International Bible, King James Version. It's a 1973 edition. I really appreciate the old time kind of language. But I'm always interested in hearing if people are listening and you have different scripture versions, different Bibles with different translations. I'd love to hear those always. Please send those to me in emails or leave in the comments if something sticks out to you and you want to share with others, because it's so interesting and enlightening to hear the similarities and differences in the different translations and versions. I love to look at things from an open mind. I know some others are not like that, and sometimes traditionally they don't encourage things like that. But again, not traditional here. And thank you, as always, for being here. Let's just jump into it, right? I'm going to start with chapter 13. The same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. I really love this one. When I first ever read this one, yeah, I really like this one. The visuals are so beautiful. That's what I really appreciate about his testament, the way of the teachings in general. It's so general and templistically based that no matter where he stands, who he speaks to, what is around, he can see the truth speaking through that very metaphor and bring it forth and speak on it tangibly and use that great parallel connection and connectivity to those who will get it because it's tangible to their location, to their direct scene, their set and setting. Their characters will get it more deeply and integrate the information more fully because of that. And so here he is on the seaside in a boat, speaking to people, of course, who reside near and live near the rocky shore, the beach, and are well familiar with the different varieties of earth, ground underneath footing here, to understand the depth and quality that he is trying to express as well, I feel, in this great parable. Let's read it. Let's read the parable, right? Okay. And behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear? Let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. Now, this to be given, I see in an esoteric metaphysical understanding as conscious awareness, the capacity to understand great depth, the spectrum of knowledge points, of knowledge and wisdom incorporated together, experiential points that need to come together and be met in order to create the vast quantity of experience points, basically, that cultivate around a disciple, one of his disciples, someone who is of the kingdom of heaven, who has seen the opening and walked through the gateway and understands what that even means, right? For those who haven't even been near to understand there's anything about the gateway or the great complexity of the architecture that goes into building it, or making it up, or anything about experiencing it, right? It's not a teachable thing. It's not within capacity to just give to someone in an instant knowledge. This is years or lifetimes, who knows? I wouldn't claim to know and understand that, but I do understand knowership and to know sis, G-O-N-O-S-I-S, the great knowings, and that some of us come through with great knowings, and others don't have that. It's not to say that it cannot be taught to all, and all are not amongst the righteous to understand it. Yes, we are. But there's, it takes time. There's levels to this, I do believe. Unless, of course, or when we have miracles and different workings afoot, happening. But I don't claim ownership to being at that level at all. I'm a mere humble human of this density, and just doing my best work, but I do leave openness and understanding that perhaps there are others who come in with different setting, different purposes, different knowing that's even greater and deeper than mine, of all different varieties of mine. In fact, it's one small slice of pie graph, it's what it is too. It's none are higher or lower than the other. We're all ratios to make up a whole. We're all given placement, divined by great observer or the great infinite creator, excuse me. Anyways, now I'm off on my own tangent here. Let's reel it back and jump back in at 12, where I left off at. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and by seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes have they closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. And this is, what I spoke about a little bit before I even read it. And he is such a master in energy working and understanding that the consent of belief, the understanding of the power of sovereign healing, of unconditional love, of perfection in righteous organic manifestation of the mind-body-spirit complex, right? The wholeness of the instrument. Jesus really understood and knew that each other has this within them, if only to acknowledge to the base level truth resonance within their own self, to ring that truly is the gateway, is the key, is the way to walk through. It's the only way to do it. And once you've done it and know it, there you are. And then, of course, everything is healed, everything's on its way to positivity. Because that's our organic, natural state of being. That's our gift here, to be in that state of joy and health and wellness and abundance and happiness, serving other instead of ourself, in a great reflection, great honor, and stewardship of the self. Knowing self is a great reflection of other, and other is a reflection of self, and in that place where to meet is the great reflection of God, Creator, Source. So yes, I think he, in those words, he says that in that great way. For those who understand that and who know that, this is the confirmation of that great knowing. And for those who don't or can't or haven't even heard about it or can't grasp it or not, it's not going to make any sense to them. It's going to look wild. It might be fearsome. There's a spectrum of reactions available when we have misunderstandings and great distortions happening. But anyways, let's get back to the scripture here. 16. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. Ye hear therefore the parable of the sower. When any one heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received the seed by wayside. This is where I love, where Jesus gets deeper into his teachings. See, he gives this base level. I think I've said this in quite a few of my episodes already, but I just love this. It's like he gives this teaching for others, for beginners, and then the disciples get to also witness this, and then they ask questions about it, and he also gives a deeper teaching to them within the same context, but it's like the backstory, it's the esoteric version. I just appreciate this so much. I love the greater depth to be discovered and explored. It's exciting, it's renewing to me as someone who loves to learn and see things from different perspectives. It's refreshing. And I really kind of laughed to myself. I think, I'm thinking refreshing and seeing these things from such new ways, when there's so many who are, in the traditional theology in different branches or sects or wherever, going to these different churches, and their whole lives or whatever have only had this exposure points that are very controlled by the mainstream. And I've had some conversations with others from those points of views, and to bring up things that they never heard of Jesus flipping tables. And I'm like, or other things. And it's like, never heard them speak, never heard him speaking truth, dropping mics on the Pharisees and Sadducees, or never heard him in this kind of energetic alchemy speaking about light and shadow work. I've talked to others, metaphysical people who are more into light work and energy healing, Reiki, or all these different aspects of that kind of thing, and then to bring up some of these words or some of the workings and say, wow, I never knew that, or never heard that part of it. It's so, yeah, so refreshing to read it my own way and let my own take speak on it, instead of allowing others the choice point exposure and just going and reading or listening to sermons given by somebody else who's picked out the part that they found important. I was kind of surprised by that when I realized that's what goes on, within churches and sermons and people with these setups. It's like, it's not actually reading verbatim from the text and going in any kind of chronological order, any kind of like sensical order, in a unbiased way, in a third-party way of just reading the text. It's very much the person who chooses what they want, what concepts and then they highlight scriptures that reflect that concepts that they're feeling or things they're seeing in the world, and then they pick and choose and cherry pick areas of different books completely and bring them together to show their meaning. And I think that's like how to lie with statistics. I think that's what the scientism world does very much when they make any sort of paid for studies with all their friends and their peer groups. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. So yeah, but I'm loving what I'm reading here and the truths that I'm seeing, just like I love great science. And I think studies in certain areas of, scientific thinking is, of course, fundamental. It's common knowledge, common sense. It's God-given. But it's warped and manipulated, of course, inverted and distorted. And, anyways, let's get back to the book. Oh my gosh. Let's keep ourselves righteously focused on positivity. Where did I even leave off now? I'm lost. Sorry, and bear with me here. Oh yeah, we're going into the backstory of the sower. I just love this. Right, so here he's bringing back, now this is what actually I wanted to kind of do, and we do have time, so this is going to be great. I'm going to kind of hobble back and forth between the original of the sower and then what he's saying here to the disciples, right? So first and foremost, when he's speaking about the sower, he says, behold, a sower went forth, and when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. And so what does it mean to fall by the wayside? First of all, it kind of means out of the bag or unnoticed. When you pick up a whole handful that you know about, those ones that sort of slip through the fingers, they're not even known by the sower, really. And whether they fall back in the bag, some of them fall right out of and on the ground where he is, or whatever. It's like those are this first group that he's speaking on here, so to speak. And I love how he says to the common folks out there, and to organic nature, and to the largest scope of all, right, to the great viewer, great knowledge of the whole picture, we see that what falls here, the fowls come up and devour them, right? The birds eat them. There's a purpose. Just as chaff to the wind has a purpose, right? We don't see it as the person who's gathering the wheat to be used. The farmer has use for the wheat itself, but the chaff goes somewhere, It's just not disappears into nothingness, It has a use and a role in the great whole. And this is the most external and exterior manifestation of creation in this external world. And it sort of goes on without the first person's knowership, without creator consciousness really being totally aware and in control in it. It's a part of it, of course, but the birds come and it's gone, right? But when he speaks back to the disciples, it's interesting to say that he delineates this sort of catch-all and this sort of, oh, what happens to the extras, and oh, why do they really fall first, and what does that even mean? Because he says that the wicked one comes, right? And it's, many times Jesus speaks about the devil, Satan. I'm not going to get into whole backstories and things about that right now. But the dark side of the shadow, or the shadow, the dark side of the light, and all that, it is a balancing act for some reason. And so, it's important to remember that what's at play and at stake here, really. Jesus is such a great reminder of that. But to remember that at the end of the day, what it is truth against lies. That's really what it is. And so when we remember that we're standing in our own knowership and in our own truths and seeking truth, we have nothing ever to fear. And then, anyways, going on. Those are the seeds that fall by the wayside, is what he's really saying, is that those, to fall by the wayside is, to be caught up by that. That negativity, that evil, devil, Satan, however you want to look at that, self-serving systems, slavery. And there are those, who choose things like that for some reason. And we can't deny it. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I wish everyone would find their own light and seek truth for themselves. But for some reason, we do have manifestations that choose the segregation, cut themselves off in these kind of ways. And they do go somewhere, that's where they go. And then there's, he goes on to say, in this sort of teaching, we have the second sort of tier, right? So we have the first tier that's absolutely inverted and distorted, refuses or rebukes the initial truth in first giving initially, and those belong to the wicked one. And we have the second sort of tier of seeds which fall on stony ground, right? And when he says to the masses, he says, some fall upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up. But because they had no deepness of earth, when the sun was up, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away. Right? So they have no nutritious ground to land on. They've landed in a bad spot and can't grow. And what Jesus says back to his disciples about the stony places in 20, but he that receiveth the seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. And what does that mean, anon with joy? Right? It means basically muted. You don't care. You don't hear it, and you're not set free by it. Sometimes when we hear truths, when we have so many lies, or we have so many sort of skeletons in a closet, we've shoved things here and there, we have this necessary appearance to keep up for some sort of reasons. When we hear things that are even truth, it compromises, it sets at risk these things that we've settled in certain positions, lies that we have covered up in a kind of way. We can't have light shining everywhere. They'll see the strings and pulleys and see that it's not as we pretended. We're not perfect. And, that in itself is incorrect in itself. When we hear the truth, when we see we've made a mistake, when there's an incorrect alignment, if instead we embrace it and choose to try to fix it or align with our truth in a better, more comfortable, harmonious way, then, we are cultivating productivity and positivity. We will hear these words with joy, like he's saying here, right? But, if your heart is a stony place, right? If your mind, body, spirit vessel is that stony, grainy land, for whatever reasons, it cannot receive the seed and it's not fertile ground. It's not going to flourish no matter, and when the light shines on it, it's going to burn. And this is the same thing. If we've got a ton of things hiding on you, when the light shines through, you're gonna get burned. But if it's very much like if you live in an enclosed place, curtains drawn all the time, your eyes get used to the darkness, and you trying to clean up your room and sweep around and keep everything organized and clean. You think you are. Maybe you've even convinced yourself that you know your room so well that in the dark you can do it, and you can stay in the dark, and you keep that image in your mind of everything, and you can really see. And maybe even you allow yourself with the blinds to pull the curtains back, keep the blinds there, and you think, then you fool yourself, that you're really telling yourself the truth about certain things. But when those blinds open up, when the real truth is hits you, that's, in itself speaks for itself as to where you are, whether you get burned or not. If you've been doing good work, then you're not going to. But if you have been living in the darkness, yeah, you should be ready for it's going to be blinding. And just like if you created a stony place, like it's not a good place to grow a seed at, So if you hear the word of truth and you're not rejoiced by it, it's time to dig into yourself and see, why not? Because, we're always recognizing and moving through. It's how you choose to acknowledge those things that really defines whether your heart is a stony place or not. It's not really about, the stone is a metaphor, right, for hardness. Anyways, let's get back to the actual text here, maybe. Where Jesus explains exactly what I'm kind of, trying to say myself here. In 21, right? When he's referring to those who heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. Right? So just like I had said about trying to stay true to your truth, and that truth it wants to be tested, it wants to be seen, it wants to be known, and to have others see it. And then if we're finding offense in it, if you're immediately put off by people assessing your truth and by offering out their own truths as well as to what they're seeing, if you can't work in harmony with others, it's so important. It's such a crucial place to be at. I think that Jesus is really trying to teach and show his disciples here that is what determines the quality of grounding the seed falls upon, really, and what sort of sprout and eventual tree fruit is allowed to grow, will grow there, right? And how it's about how you're asserting your truth, how you're accepting and moving through your own experiences, right? And so in 22 brings us to this sort of next tier of seeds, right? That doesn't fall on stony ground, but falls in thorny area. And he also that receiveth seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the world, and he becometh unfruitful. Now, I really like this one as well, because there's so many people these days and ages who sort of awoke, but they're super negatively aligned, and they're trying to preach and speak these either religious or spiritually based marketing schemes, and they've been really hijacked and play everything to matrix systems, and everything's about making money and law of attraction and getting all of these kind of riches and worldly goods that confirm your spiritual righteousness or confirm your connectivity to source, because the universe gives you what you want, or the universe answers to your call and is at your beck and call. That's a very, very scary, distorted slippery slope is what Jesus, I feel, refers to with the Pharisees and Sadducees as an evil generation of vipers seeking signs and symbols, thinking that they can ask for obedience from great Creator. Reminds me so much of the Chronicles of Narnia. They say he is not a tame lion. You cannot just expect him to appear when you call for him. That's not the way he obeys. He obeys his own laws, not word. People tend to think word is law when it's not. But again, here Jesus is righteously speaking and teaching the great spectrum of interaction and power of choice available here in this great free will creation and gift we've been birthed into and given here as children of light and creation. So that takes us through the other tiers to the final tier of seed that's received into good ground. In 23, but he that received seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit and bringeth forth some in 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. And I love how there's all these different, he really brings forth, everyone has a different rate of productivity, different lineage, different lines, different people have different purposes. It's great variety and diversity is part of organic truth. I think I'll wait actually to get into this other parable here because we've already passed a half an hour, so it'll be perfect to pick up with a new parable in part 2 next Sunday. But thank you so much for listening to me read through here the beginning of chapter 13 and talk over the parable of the sower. Yes. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go complete mine with some labors of love, with wonderful cleaning and some great expression of energy and exercise, and fulfill, my daily tasks in a wonderful presence of Great Spirit. Hope you're doing the same no matter what it is you are, actually what day it is for you, even if you're not listening to this on Sunday. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are in the world. Thanks for witnessing my great contribution here to our collective, and I thank you deeply for your beautiful contribution to our collective. We wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you deeply. And if you're looking for anything from me in the meantime, always you could find me on Telegram, Marie Speaks over there, or directly on my website, amariespeaks.com. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.